Hi, my name is Lee Barclay, and I'll be doing my final recording for interviewing skills for Community College of Allegheny County. We'll be talking about the social work process. So, to address the first component, basic concepts of social work interviewing, this is explaining the process in terms that the client understands, being personable and empathetic, assuring the client there is a solution to every problem, finding solutions. Sometimes this entails exploring other systems such as outpatient treatment, government assistance, utilizing existing resources in the client's life, and most importantly, empowering the individual to find the means towards the desired goal. A major part of this process is breaking down very complex systems and goals into ones that are manageable and attainable and easy to understand for the client. The helping process involved in social work practice are, first off, engagement and preparation. Now, during this phase, we are kind of preparing ourselves and preparing the client for the process ahead. We're finding a common ground with the client, being non-judgmental and empathetic, educating ourselves in order to remain objective and decrease personal bias. The education piece to this is allowing us to understand what kind of experiences the client has had, and that'll allow us to be more objective during the interview. The next phase is assessment, planning, and contracting. This is when we are doing a thorough assessment and making sure that the goals are identified and are addressing the issues in the client's life. Through collaboration and techniques like motivational interviewing, we prioritize the problems. We also are addressing the problems and the issues that the client is going through. We're constantly explaining all procedures in detail and as to what interventions are needed and why they're needed. This helps the client understand why we're doing what we're doing. The next phase is intervention and implementation. This is the action phase of the process. We're touching base to see if there are any new issues arising and determining the effectiveness of the ones already set in motion. And if they're not effective, we may want to rethink those forms of treatment or interventions and find new ones that could be more beneficial. We are allowing and encouraging room for growth and embracing changes that the individual is going through personally. We're meeting the client where they're at, allowing failures to become opportunities for learning. We introduce terminating the professional relationship at this point, and that'll add to a easier transition to the next phase. And the next phase is evaluation and termination. We really are analyzing the effectiveness of all treatment involved. We're applying additional resources if needed. This phase is where we allow the client to kind of take the wheel. We want them to act independently with their treatment, act as their own social worker pretty much, to problem solve, to get through things in their lives, and seek out additional support if needed. And we're analyzing their ability to do that. The very final phase is the follow-up phase, which allows closure to the professional relationship. It also allows the social worker to truly analyze progress made and the overall effectiveness of treatment and interventions. Social worker will decide whether to end the professional relationship, continue on, or refer to someone else. There can be a high rate of recidivism within the populations, various populations, due to various deficits, but they keep coming back for treatment, sometimes because they still haven't found the need for change in certain areas of their lives, or maybe it's because we haven't addressed their issues appropriately. But during this phase, you're pretty much seeing the patient going down the path that we came to an agreement on, and that's where they should be going. Okay, to address the next question, social workers and human service workers in modern society are like liaisons between individuals in need and the resolution that they seek. They address the issues surrounding an individual without making the situation worse, recreating past traumatic experiences, or personalizing the stress of the populations we serve. So we're not going to re-traumatize them. We're not going to take on the stress that they're giving out. We have to be the foundation which can be hard at times, especially in dealing with clients who have experienced recent trauma. We help to break down complex systems into comprehensible terms. This can be challenging, not in the fact that we're breaking down complex systems, but in the fact that we're communicating those complex systems to the individual in terms that they understand. If we have a good relationship with the client, it can be a lot easier. Social workers and human service workers are excellent problem solvers and find solutions in the face of any adversity. And that's what it is. It's understanding processes in a way that understanding how to problem solve and where to go for solutions, knowing that we can't do it on our own, none of us, and that it's okay to be vulnerable at times. An effective social worker would develop a plan to assist an individual in day-to-day social functioning by first acknowledging the deficit of the individual, whatever that deficit may be, and then, this is the harder part, communicating that deficit to the individual. Sometimes they don't want to see what's really going on, even if it's addressed by the outside world. We want to allow the individual the opportunity to acknowledge it and collaborate on a plan of action. Then we want to empower the individual by highlighting successes, encouraging independence in every possible way, and framing failure as an opportunity for personal growth. Again, we're touching on that. It's very important. Sometimes this involves developing a very specific plan of action for the individual and those involved in his or her treatment, and for him or her to follow this plan on a day-to-day basis. Now, this can include developing daily schedules. It also can include not putting them in social situations that are overwhelming, allowing them to work within their deficit, but also challenging that deficit to an extent, and allowing that room for personal growth. Social workers demonstrate effective listening and communication during the clinical interview by remaining unbiased and empathetic, finding common ground with the client by making sure that they understand the process fully. Paraphrasing shows the client that the social worker is engaged in the conversation and that they understand where the client is coming from. As always, skills like maintaining eye contact, having an open posture, keeping distractions to a minimum, including note-taking, which can be very distracting if they're constantly writing and looking down and just and engaged body language helps to demonstrate effective listening and enhances the overall communication. Body language and eye contact is very important. Also paraphrasing, putting it in your own words. Social workers express empathy by using all verbal and nonverbal forms of communication and paraphrasing. Also by acknowledging the client's problem without assuming his or her emotions, but simultaneously understanding how they can be affected by the situation that they've experienced. So we're not assuming their emotions, we're taking them where they're at, and we're also not assuming that or invalidating their emotions. It can be a tricky goal to help the client feel like they're not alone, but also not invalidating their experiences. Also, using personal experiences can be helpful in some situations, but I think there's a line that you can't cross in that situation. You can't, first off, divulge too much if it's too personal for you. Also, you don't want to divulge something and invalidate their experience. Honesty is always the best way, even if it's a situation you've never dealt with before. Just expressing that in a sincere way. And that can be challenging, but it's necessary. Empathy ties in a lot of other components such as respect, open-mindedness, compassion, genuine validation of the emotions that the client is experiencing. Empathy is one of the most important parts of the social work process because it allows us to meet on common ground. Okay, this was my final recording. Hopefully I didn't go over 10 minutes, but if I did, I'll do it again. Thank you. I enjoyed the class. Have a good night.